Hey, this is Hale Bishop from Moultrie First United Methodist Church in Moultrie, Georgia. I'm sorry that I missed you last week. I've kind of had a hard time keeping up with my YouTube blog here. But anyway, here's the sermon for August the 12th, 2007. I'm going to base it on Genesis chapter 15. You'll remember that when it says Abraham believed the Lord and it was counted to his righteousness. I wonder sometimes if we really, we say we believe God, and Abraham says he believes God, but later on in verse 8 of chapter 15 he says, how can I know? And so then God came and met Abraham on a level where Abraham can understand. We can't understand other people making contract or promising us something. Have you ever been let down? I've been let down all my life. People coming in and saying, I'll do this. Preacher, I'll send you this. This is going to happen. This is the contract. And then it doesn't happen. So it was tough for Abraham to understand God making a contract with him, or understand God just making a statement and his yes being his yes and his no being his no. So what God did was to meet Abraham on his level. He did a legal and binding contract with him in Genesis 15. But as we look at this, I want you to look that God makes these contracts. God makes the Ten Commandments. God makes the laws for us, not for him. Because God tells us in Psalm 50, which is another passage for this week's lectionary, that every animal is mine. If I were hungry, I wouldn't tell you. It's all mine. I have no need for your burnt offerings. I wonder how arrogant we are sometimes to think that God needs our prayer, that God needs us to keep our part of the contract. The reality is the contract is there for us, to give us assurance. Because in our mind, we can't even comprehend a God that never, ever goes back on his word. He loves us. Everything he can to give us the assurance of who we are, so that we will be ready for his eventual return. We need, as the Hebrews chapter says, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we don't see. Even though sometimes we're not as certain as we need to be. We need to be like Abraham. We need to hear God's call. We need to obey it. And we need to go. This week I hope you'll think about how God makes contract with each of us. Not because God needs us to sign on the dotted line. We'll break those contracts, but God never will. This is God's word this week for God's people. Thanks be to God.